Hey, I'm Jamal.
And I'm Heather.
I knew when we actually got married that kids were going to be something we definitely wanted.
We thought it was just gonna happen. And months went by.
Not as easy as we thought it would be. Early on, it wasn't that bad. It's like, we're still early on in our marriage. There's time, but then as the months pass, it really is pretty kind of devastating in a sense.
Let's say every month was a disappointment.
Months passed, a year passed, and
It was hard. Went to go see a doctor. They started doing tests, and he told us if we want to be aggressive about getting pregnant, that we would need to see a specialist. So that took about a year. When we were going through the process, taking shots, and I had to do a couple of surgeries. Like, we thought it was gonna work, but it didn't. It was hard to be happy for somebody else. So we were meeting a lot of people at church. Like, a couple would say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna try to have a kid." Next time we see them, "Oh, we're pregnant," and we're like, "Okay, congratulations," but to ourselves, we're like, we're still working on this, Sometimes it was hard to function, because you're so focused on trying to get pregnant, and it just wasn't happening. Like, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be a mom. I'm like, maybe this is not for me, so.
I was literally drove into, let's say, a depression, where I had a couple panic attacks or depressive episodes.
Yeah, when that would happen, I'd feel really hopeless because you don't really know how to help.
There was one day, Landon and I went to lunch, and he told me a story of a friend that was going through something similar. His friend do something that, a show of faith and trust in God. So he went and bought a car seat and just drove around in his car without being pregnant. But they ended up getting news that they were pregnant. What I did do was buy a small little journal, and I started to write to a child that I didn't know where they are or who they are, but I just felt that I should write. That process really helped ease my anxiety. The amount of people in our corner where people would just call or text and "Hey man, I'm praying for you." It's like it's real, for someone to say, "Hey, I'm gonna write this in my calendar and take time out of my busy day and pray for you guys." So I don't know, it's kind of almost unreal that people are doing that.
And they gave us the worst case scenario and the best. Worst is 0, no eggs. The best is, I think, more eggs than what they retrieve out of me. But they called the next day. I was nervous because, it could have been good news or bad news.
So I was at my last job site, which happened to be a church, and I had been checking my phone all day trying to get an update from Heather to see if she'd heard from the doctor, if we had a viable embryo to transfer, and I just tossed my phone in the van and did not check it until I finished the work at this property. So maybe a couple hours later, when I was actually wrapping up the job, I went and looked at my phone, and I saw I had a message from you, and I just assumed it was gonna say no updates. But like it said, we have a embryo, and like I just broke down and started crying.
On the day of the beta pregnancy test, we went in at 7:15 in the morning to do the blood draw. And they said, oh, we'll call you between 12 and 5 with the results. Because Jamal was going to wait for the results there at the clinic.
Yeah, I was like, can I just hang out?
I was just waiting for the phone to ring. They called, and I told the lady, I was like, don't say anything yet. I was like, I'm going to call Jamal on 3-way so that we can get the news at the same time.
Heather calls, and I see Heather on the phone. I'm like shaking. I'm like, and I answer the phone. She's like, you ready? The nurse is on the other line. You want me to bring her on? All right, let's do it.
So she told us that we were pregnant. And she rambled on with some numbers. I didn't hear it. I just heard, we're pregnant. I was like, we're pregnant, and she just told us what the next step was. I didn't catch it. I was just stuck in that zone where she just said, we're pregnant. She hung up, and we were on the phone for a couple of minutes. Like, I wasn't sobbing, crying, but I was crying.
I was crying. I was crying like a baby. This whole process has been about a year and a half or so of just, doctor's visits, emotions, a lot of prayer, ups, downs. Really through it all, kind of just solidified that God does remain faithful. And we're thrilled and excited to say that
the baby will be here November 14th, 2019.